you're trying to seize ballot boxes and potentially declare a national emergency, then you're not winning in the first place. Trump's authoritarianism is confirmation that he is unpopular.
But it's another thing to want to nationalize elections. That is just a bad idea today, as it was when Democrats tried to do it in 2021 under Joe Biden. It was called For the People Act.
We should not try and scare people here. There is no mechanism for him to do it. And he is absolutely trying to undermine faith in the process. He is trying to undermine trust.
He has lied to the American people by starting a war that we can't get out of, by spiking gas prices, unemployment is up, wage growth is not matching inflation, and he has to face that fact. Rather than doing that, he's hiding behind these authoritarian moves.
But the hangover from Trump, once he exits the stage, is going to be very difficult for Republicans, for many Republican spokespersons who have found themselves nodding along.
Because I come from a state that is 100% mail-in voting, and every single time I hear the complaints about mail-in voting in particular and how there's a whole bunch of fraud that's going to swing elections.
He is not interested in the Republican Party winning power. I think he thrives when he is the underdog, quote unquote. I'm not sure he wants the Republican Party to win this fall.
Guys, last night on Abby Phillip show, MAGA pundits were absolutely crushed when they tried to defend Donald Trump's hint at an election emergency before the midterms. The progressives on the panel fact-checked these MAGA idiots so hard that they were left scrambling for answers. Let's see what exactly happened during the show, and I'll share my thoughts as we go.
Years of a constitutional and perhaps moral crisis as President Trump is not ruling out nationalizing elections. Listen.
If they never get the Save America Act done, you have the right to declare a national security emergency for elections. They can't challenge it. It can only be overturned by a 2/3 vote of both houses of Congress. So if you do this in the next month, we will get photo ID, proof of citizenship, and a limit to mail-in ballots, and you don't even need the Senate vote.
Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Stranger things have happened. It's just the latest comment showing how Trump feels about control over elections. In February, pro-Trump activists, in coordination with the White House, reportedly circulated an executive order that would declare a national emergency over dubious claims that China interfered in 2020. In March, Trump ordered the Postal Service not to deliver mail-in ballots for states that refused to hand over voter rolls. Federal courts had blocked the order, but the administration is appealing that to the Supreme Court. And earlier this year, of course, the FBI seized election materials at Atlanta and Puerto Rico, which also raised concerns about the midterms. Now, if that wasn't clear, this is what the president said in February.
The Republicans should say, we want to take over. We should take over the voting in at least 15 places. The Republicans ought to nationalize the voting. And we have states that are so crooked, and they're counting votes. We have states that I won that show I didn't win. Now, you're going to see something in Georgia where they were able to get, with a court order, the ballots. You're going to see some interesting things come out. But, you know, like the 2020 election, I won that election by so much.
He did not win the 2020 election. All right, we're back. So when the president doesn't seem to explicitly rule out declaring some kind of national security emergency for the 2026 election, how concerned are Democrats, or should voters be, about some kind of shenanigans before, during, or after November 3rd?
You know where my mind goes? If you're trying to seize ballot boxes and potentially declare a national emergency, then you're not winning in the first place. Trump's authoritarianism is confirmation that he is unpopular. He has lied to the American people by starting a war that we can't get out of, by spiking gas prices, unemployment is up, wage growth is not matching inflation, and he has to face that fact. Rather than doing that, he's hiding behind these authoritarian moves. I'm a young dude, and I've spent all of my formative years growing up in an America where I see the President of the United States undermining the most important institutions that we have, a free and fair election. This means a lot to me. I like free and fair elections a lot. I like peaceful transfers of power. Every chance that Donald Trump gets, he tries to rig the midterms, undermine elections that he loses. It is disgusting and it's indefensible. Honestly, it's indefensible.
From a small c conservative perspective, it is one thing to want robust voter ID to ensure integrity of elections. That is objectively a good, admirable goal. But it's another thing to want to nationalize elections. That is just a bad idea today, as it was when Democrats tried to do it in 2021 under Joe Biden. It was called For the People Act. and they genuinely wanted to streamline voting processes and bring it all up to the federal level.
Guys, it's pretty hard to ignore that Trump is doing everything in his power to distract Americans from the main issues. And this is where things start to get really strange. What if the biggest story today is not inflation, the war in Iran, gas prices, or even the economy? What if it's a national election emergency? Yes, you heard that right. An election emergency before the 2026 midterms. And that strange and stupid plan raises a very serious question. Is this really about election security and making the process fair? Or is it about creating fear, intimidating the voters, and distracting Americans from the ongoing situation in the country? The timing of this disruptive idea is hard to ignore. Guys, Trump is facing some of his biggest political problems. During his campaign, Trump promised Americans that he would lower prices for households. He promised lower inflation, cheaper gas, energy, housing, and healthcare. He promised more job opportunities and better wages. More importantly, he promised his voters no new wars. But he didn't fulfill these promises at all. Instead, everything that an ordinary American needs to survive has become more expensive. Now groceries, gas, housing, and healthcare are costing families more and more. And things didn't stop there. This brainless idiot imposed stupid tariffs by claiming to protect American workers. He imposed tariffs on imports, which caused costs to rise, and eventually consumers started paying the price. And as if that was not enough, he started a completely unnecessary war against Iran without obtaining congressional approval. That brought even more negative effect on Americans' lives. Iran disrupted the Strait of Hormuz, a passage that carries a significant portion of the world's oil supply. And the result was immediate. The gas prices skyrocketed. And with that, the price of everything on store shelves has gone up considerably. And not only that, American service members have been killed by Iranian retaliatory strikes. U.S. bases have been partially damaged in Gulf countries. Tens of billions of taxpayer dollars have been spent on this war so far. And you know what? The most shocking part is that America is nowhere closer to ending this war. This egotistical man started this war and promised that it would end in a couple of days, then in a few weeks. But now, we have been in this war for about 6 months, and nobody knows how much time it's going to take to resolve this conflict. And the sad part is, America is paying the price because of this clown in the Oval Office. Now, the Trump administration wants an exit strategy that could look like a win, not a surrender. But Iran is playing tough now, and Trump is not finding a respectable way out of the situation. Meanwhile, back home, people are struggling with their everyday expenses. It is natural that they're asking, how much will this war cost? How long will it take? And what have we achieved out of it? And as expected, Trump and his cronies have no answer to these questions. And remember, guys, all of this is happening while Trump is asking American voters to focus on something completely different. It is ridiculous. And this is exactly why this latest move is so concerning, because while Americans are worried about their wallets and their families, the conversation is suddenly shifting toward the rules of the next election.
And there's a reason why our Constitution really makes that difficult to do. It's because this is properly the domain of the states. Now, I'm not disputing that some states are kind of bad at managing their own elections. Sure. There's been issues with, mishaps and fraud and things like that. But I wouldn't say that that's a good enough of a reason to make the federal government take it over, because the problem with politics, it could become a partisan football, and it could be weaponized the next time the opposing party is in power.
Will become a partisan football. And also the federal government tends to make plenty of mistakes all on its own. I don't want to nationalize elections because I don't want to centralize the error-prone tendencies of government in general. I would have to agree with virtually everything you said there. I mean, the reality is that again, I mentioned it earlier, but the hangover from Trump once he exits the stage is going to be very difficult for Republicans, for many Republican spokespersons who have found themselves nodding along in segments just like the one we were just watching there, to things that I don't think most of them actually believe completely in their hearts. There are totally credible arguments to be made for things like voter ID that Democrats, I think, have been on the wrong side of for quite some time, but they are completely blowing the opportunity. When the president of the United States talks this way, you get the sense that he isn't really a man of his particular party. This isn't about the party. If it was, you would tone this down. You would talk in a more responsible and disciplined way.
100%, because I come from a state that is 100% mail-in voting, and every single time I hear the complaints about mail-in voting in particular and how there's a whole bunch of fraud that's going to swing elections, I say to myself, you're making it easier to convince a Republican not to vote whatsoever. So even if there was cheating going on, they wouldn't have to because people aren't actually voting. At the same time, he brings up important issues that, to your point, the Democrats are just completely dismissing. We went from there's no fraud whatsoever, it's impossible in our perfect system, to, well, there's not a ton of fraud. I don't don't think there's been enough fraud to completely overturn an election. But this idea that a few thousand votes here or there doesn't matter, well, let's look to Wisconsin right now. Let's talk to Norm Coleman. I mean, there have been plenty of cases in which they do matter. And I don't care if it can swing an election. I want to make sure that we're getting that number to zero. And the Democrats have been saying that that no longer matters, that it's not that big enough of a deal. I'm sorry, it is a big deal. And I think we would all be better, Republicans and Democrats, to know that we are literally doing everything we can to ensure that our system is as safe as humanly possible, and it's not, or it shouldn't be, political.
Just two quick questions to throw into the table here. Number one,
Guys, things got even more revealing when Trump appeared to shift the conversation towards how elections are run and who controls them. Many people think that he may be looking for ways to restrict voting before the midterms. And one of the ideas being discussed is imposing a national emergency in the name of election security. That is an absolutely ridiculous and shameless act by this disgusting president. Right now, some of Trump's voters have started feeling that they made the wrong choice by trusting in voting for this brainless MAGA boss. But here's where constitutional issues come in. While talking to them about Trump's plan to declare a national emergency, one of the Americans said that it's a good thing that the Constitution puts control over elections in the hands of the states, not the federal government. But Trump has shown repeatedly that he doesn't give a shit about the Constitution. And that's right, guys. This egotistical president doesn't give a damn about the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, that says states play a major role in running congressional elections, and Congress, not the executive branch, has the power to alter certain election regulations. And declaring a national emergency does not automatically grant the president the power to override the Constitution or usurp state authority. Now, think about this for a second. What if certain states said no to Trump and others said yes? Then that would create a bigger constitutional crisis. And it seems that Trump doesn't really care. And this is exactly why Americans need to take this seriously. Guys, here's what another American citizen said. Point being, this is a scare tactic and the GOP is counting on you to 1, be afraid, and 2, spread the fear. Don't fall for it. Check your voter registration. Make sure your friends do, and all who make a plan to vote. Then vote and protect your neighborhood polling station. Also, vote early because a lot of what he intends to obstruct will be on election day. And honestly, I think this is where Trump may be seriously underestimating Americans. If Trump thinks that he'll get away with broken promises to working class Americans and damaging the country's image on the international stage, then he is a fool. Americans are now watching his every action very closely, and they will respond with their votes in the midterms, because when everything else is stripped away, the voters still have the final say.
How seriously should you take it when he doesn't rule out nationalizing elections?
Take it seriously.
It's not
seriously?
You have to.
No, you should not take this
two, I'll let you guys argue it out. The second question is, didn't Democrats run on threats to democracy in 2024 and lose?
Of course.
The idea that
that's a bad argument.
The idea that we shouldn't take this seriously when Trump literally tried to overturn the 2020 election by having a mob enter the Capitol while they were certifying it. The fact that he had a fake elector scheme where he had fake electors in 7 different states. If you want to
You had Democratic electors who were actively saying they were not going to cast their vote for the winners of their state. In Washington State, there was a case that went to the Supreme Court and had that overturned. You had Democrats, the faithless elector case. On top of that, give me one more second. You had 3 states, Democrat-run states, that tried to take him off the ballot. So this idea...
Wait, after he tried an insurrection?
What did the Supreme Court say? Could they legally do that? No. You had Democrats who were objecting to the certification of 3 elections.
Right now.
George W. Bush happened first, and it was Barbara Boxer.
My 2 questions back on the table. How seriously do you take it, and is this something Democrats should focus on?
I think we should take it very seriously, and we should always zoom out. There is no mechanism for the federal government to take over the elections. My organization, Run for Something, works with people running for state and local office. We've helped hundreds and hundreds of pro-democracy, pro-voter, local election administrators run for and win these offices. They are the ones that decide where polling places are. They are the ones that certify the votes. We should not try and scare people here. There is no mechanism for him to do it. And he is absolutely trying to undermine faith in the process. He is trying to undermine trust. And I completely agree with you. He is not interested in the Republican Party winning power. I think he thrives when he is the underdog, quote unquote. I'm not sure he wants the Republican Party to win this fall. I think he wants to have a villain in Congress that he can go up against.
All right.
That's it for today, guys. What do you think? Is an election emergency a good idea, or is it just another political distraction? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you with the next one.